Welcome to week 6 in our summer review series. We are now well into the series, and my whole purpose for creating this summer review series was to support you with a framework to take some time, create some space to really connect to you and get clear on who you are, what you want, and set yourself up to reimagining what's ahead. So this process was a sort of unintentional process that I went through in the second half of 2023. And I knew I wanted to reconnect to myself this summer. So I created the series for you, but really I created the series for me. So this is one of my favorite topics, knowing your values. And it's a favorite because it's been a challenging process for me over the years to really anchor into what are my values and then to really live into them. I was probably introduced, certainly in my coach training, to the concept of values. But what really supported me to just be more intentional, spend more time in it, was the work and the module in the Dare to Lead curriculum that is all about living your values. So for the last 5 years, as I've delivered Dare to Lead, every time I facilitate the Living Your Values section, Brene challenges us to identify 2 core values. And I found that actually very challenging. Courage was usually in my top 2, and I would end up kind of alternating a second value. So connection and courage were often the 2 values that I would share in facilitation and that I was being really intentional about in my own life. And then last year, I was introduced to Susan David. She's the author of Emotional Agility. And I went through a little mini course that she'd created, and she talked about values a little bit differently. And it just opened me up, and I want to share it with you. She talks about our values as she uses the analogy of rooms in a house. So if we are the house, we have multiple rooms in our house. We as humans, we are complex. We have a lot going on. And so she kind of allows this idea of more values and being aware of multiple values that are rooms in our house. And at different times, we need to step into different rooms in our values house. So as I worked through this curriculum in this course, I recognized 6 values that actually are very present and meaningful to me. And so I was able to identify courage, integrity, connection, and then 3 values that I was really ignoring and not naming, not paying attention to, and not making decisions around. So those 3 values were well-being, growth, and freedom. So as I kind of expanded my definition of values and allowed more values to kind of come to the surface, get clear on my house, then I was able to recognize pretty quickly last year that these values of the second 3, the well-being, freedom, and growth, I had not been paying attention to, but they were actually very, very important to me. So as I had been building my business in 2023, I realized that I'd actually started creating a business model that compromised my value of freedom. The way things were structured, and I did this, like I did this to myself, there's nobody responsible other than me for creating this, was just a structure that limited my freedom, limited my creative freedom, limited time freedom. And suddenly I just found myself doing all sorts of tasks and projects in my business that were not fun for me, not in my strengths, back to last week's content, and really challenged my freedom value. Also compromised my well-being value. And I've always had this I wouldn't call it a very inspiring vision to say, I want to have a high impact on people through Inspired Results Group, but not at the expense of the owner's well-being. So I recognized that what I had created was actually interfering with my well-being, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It just wasn't working for me. So well-being and freedom needed to be honored as I thought about how to grow my business. So growth was a value that I finally kind of wrapped my head around. I used to think of it as like ambition or aspiration, that was important to me. And what I came to realize last year is that I was thinking about growth in the wrong way. I was sort of defining growth in the way I heard other people defining it, which, was about financial targets and growing and scaling your business. And I just got sucked into that thinking of that's what growth is. And so I have growth as a value, but it wasn't the right kind of growth. What I realized is I want growth, absolutely. But really, what I want to grow is my mastery of coaching, my ability to be excellent at coaching and facilitation and leadership development, but becoming like growth for growth's sake, for revenue targets or volume of work, that was actually not important. I'm more interested in quality than quantity. And so I kind of had to rumble with that and realize that I was off track and I wanted to honor my growth value differently. So, long way of saying what I'm such now a true believer in is that when we get clear on our values and then, assess opportunities or decisions through the lens of our values and let our values have a seat at the table, let our values become a criteria for decision making and choices. That's when we're going to land in places that really feel good to us, allow us to put our head on the pillow at the end of the day, feeling like that might have been a hard day, but whatever happened, I was in alignment with my values, and that fundamentally feels good. Even if I made some hard decisions or, made some choices that weren't popular, if at the end of the day, they align with who I want to be and what's important to me, that's now my litmus test. So I've put together a worksheet which asks you some questions just to get you thinking in a way that might surface some of these values for you. And if you like Susan David's house analogy, please, if you want to draw a house, think about this as you have rooms in your house, and we don't live in every room every day. We move to different rooms. So different values will have sort of a front seat at different times. And that was a really helpful analogy for me to work with. So I'm excited for you to sit with this values exercise this week, get clear on 3 to 5. You can be like me and have 6 values that you want to have present. Mine are actually on sticky notes right here beside my desk so that I never lose sight of them, literally. I hope this series is serving you. Thank you for hanging in with little extra long videos, and I hope this summer is providing you with an opportunity to really connect to who you are. All right, take care. We'll see you next week.